I would write an episode a week in season one. And then to celebrate, I would like drink a bottle of Jameson's and take a day to recover and then start the next episode. I'm still a scared little boy who doesn't think he's worthy of love.
Nic, what's the latest on you getting back involved with True Detective?
Matthew and Woody have both said they would come back.
Suzanne, how did you transition from longing to fulfillment?
I really, did a lot of that work when I was pregnant with Rosie because I didn't want to be a mother that...
I'm Tim Green, and I have ALS. But this podcast isn't about ALS. I don't want you to feel sorry for me. I'm a father of 5, married for over 35 years, a New York Times best-selling author, an NFL first-round pick, and a practicing attorney. This is Nothing Left Unsaid, where my son Troy and I sit down with extraordinary people for raw, honest conversations about life, its toughest trials, and greatest triumphs. My voice in today's episode is powered by 11 Labs. Nic and Suzanne, you're two of my favorite people we've had the pleasure of talking to since starting this podcast journey.
Wow.
Last time you were here, the conversation slowed down, deepened, and went somewhere really honest. And Nic, by the way, your last time on this podcast ended up being our most listened to episode on Spotify for 2025. Suzanne, I still think about your last episode when you talked about walking away from chasing fame, choosing family, and letting your music become an act of service instead of a transaction. That landed with a lot of people, including me. That's something I've always tried to do with my own life and never heard it articulated so clearly. And honestly, it was just really fun just getting to talk with you. So I'm grateful you're both back at the table.
We're happy to be here.
Thank you so much.
Really enjoyed our last conversation.
Suzanne, last time you talked about moving from longing to fulfillment. Nic, what has it been like to witness that change inside the marriage?
That's a really good question. I have to say it's been really beautiful. And I've gotten to see Suzanne sort of go somewhere I always felt she wanted to. My sense of her was that the things she really wanted weren't going to come through the type of material success that a lot of people chase. And I felt like I could even speak firsthand about that. Like you kind of don't realize how inadequate certain dreams are until you fulfill them. And then you can kind of step back and say, that's it. I mean, I'm glad I did it and I feel good about myself, but a lot of times I think people expect something transformative to occur from material success, and it never does. And that's one reason, a standard American story is the person who gets it all and promptly blows it, right? And it's because they stand on the other side of a dream's fulfillment and they're unchanged. And really the only thing that can transcend the human experience is you. You're the one who has to change. But for me, seeing Suzanne, who's someone who has so much love and positivity and joy for the world, be able to put all that love and energy into her child, into her family, and watching how it's freed you. It's freed you from a lot of stuff that I think was really painful for you before we made Rosie. It's been really joyous for me. I mean, I don't want Suzanne to ever abandon her dreams, but it was more like watching your energy and your spirit find its true calling. Because I just see her so fulfilled with our children and with our home. And, she's still making great music and has a new album coming out next year. But I just feel like you've gotten to access what was always yours to begin with, but had maybe been diverted or misallocated?
Well, now that, we get to have this life and I'm a mother, which is my favorite job. um, I almost have it's funny because like I have this fear that if something like right now there's a really great balance with family and career and the way I get to work, and preferably we get to work together if we can, God willing. But I like now it's like if something like took off that didn't accommodate my home life, that's a fear I have now. Like that, if I can't take everybody with me, then I don't want to go. It's a really strange feeling. Like there's under no circumstances do I want any kind of long period of time away from my husband and my children. So, it's funny. Like I love making music. I just played a show the other week. It was a blast. My mom came in and surprised me and flew in for the weekend. But yeah, letting go of that as this thing that was so important to achieve was a huge blessing. And I really, did a lot of that work when I was pregnant with Rosie because I didn't want to be a mother that was sad about my career or that like had this missing piece. So I did a lot of work. I did a lot of letting go and just understanding this sort of arc of my life and what matters. And, I've become really comfortable with it, music just being where it is. And that was such a blessing from having my first baby, from having Rosie. So
Has there been anything with like your creative process that almost like when you're stop trying to chase that one path that you've been able to kind of get back to, or something in your music that feels different?
yeah, it's funny. I was telling you this the other day. I don't play as much. It's a little more consolidated. Like if I have a show coming up, I have to really like hunker down and make sure my chops are up on the violin. But when I'm writing, it almost like I'm like, this is my hour or 2 hours or 3 hours, and that's it. And the way I can dedicate myself to it now, it comes a lot faster as opposed to like when I lived alone in Los Angeles and tried to practice 8 hours a day. It was like you're just doing it every day, every day. But now it's like I have other things to do. So when I get the opportunity to play or write, it's like super, super condensed almost. Like it's just it really I maximize my time, and then I found that it flows a little easier. And what I was going to say was I feel like every time I pick up the guitar, I don't know what's going on. I'm not trying to toot my own horn, but I'm better than I was the time before, and I don't practice that much anymore. So there's like this almost intuitive approach where like I'm not as mechanical. So it's fun. Like it's like a relationship that's changing all the time, and I've been doing it for so long. So like now it's extra exciting at any time I get to pick up an instrument because I don't get to do it all the time.
It's like you don't have burnout anymore.
Yeah, definitely not.
That's a much more fun way to work. So you both walked away from environments that rewarded output over health. How do you now discern when work is life-giving versus corrosive?
That's very good.
This is you
Well, so for me, the work I take is fundamentally life-giving, I guess, because it pays for my family. So I work with the same amounts of tasks. But I'm actually reaching a point where I think I might have to branch out my work in the sense of I still get lots of work in TV and film, and I'm working on several projects now. But, for the last 5 years, a lot of things just haven't gone to production. They haven't reached fruition. And so I've written this stuff I think is pretty great, and I'm very proud of it, but nobody's ever going to get to see it. So the bifurcation that might need to happen with my career now is, okay, I write for TV and film, and that takes care of my family and it provides for all of us. but I also maybe need to be writing books at the same time, because my level of personal expression and things that are generated uniquely through me has kind of fallen off, as you know, I've just been taking care of my family, and the things that have been really important to me as modes of personal expression haven't really consummated into a production. And that's okay. I mean, if the medium you work in takes tens of millions of dollars to achieve, you should probably expect that you're not going to get to do it all the time. But at the same time, writing books doesn't cost anything, and it's what I started out doing. And so I felt the call towards a more personal vision that I haven't really been able to achieve again in film and TV. So, you know, work that's life-giving for me is work that provides for the life of my family. But really, the stuff that invigorates my soul and makes me happy are the things that are generated from my own heart and mind. And
Original ideas.
originals, and I might need to find a different outlet for that.
I think he'd make like an incredible Tony Robbins, like the next speaker, you know, in his way. And, you know, you're such a hottie too, you know, I think people would just
Starting a
use his face.
starting a cult has always been somewhere in the back of my mind. Is like, if everything else fails, I'll just start a cult.
See, I think he'd really do a great job, honestly. You're
How
born.
far is the drive to Waco?
Pretty close.
Nic, you write a TV show, you sell it to one of the stations, one of those, and then at that point you're just not hands off, but you can't control, like, if they decide not to make it, it's just
No, I'm not. Yeah, I mean, I'm never hands off, except with writing films for money. Like, I mean,
hire, yeah.
for hire is a better way to say it. It's not that callous, but you know, when I do that, I'm taking a job and I'm going to do the best possible work I can, and I'm going to give you a great script. But when I turn in that script, it's literally out of my hands and I have to let it go. I don't know if somebody is going to make a good movie or a bad movie or no movie. Mm-hmm. And with the TV shows, those have been personal, original work that's generated. And I've sold 3 TV shows the last 3 years. And each time, after about a year of development, for whatever reasons, the studios are going through a reshuffling. Everybody's getting fired and hired and but they haven't manifested as TV shows.
Something, you know, I've been privy to all this, and some of it is heartbreaking. You know, he's had these incredible scripts, story ideas, and I read them and like, I can't wait to see what happens next, you know, and we're not going to see it. And you said something to me once about how it's like writing all these songs you never get to sing, you know, and it's frustrating.
Or it's kind of like, you know, the analogy I gave her was, it's like if you made a great album and nobody's ever allowed to hear it. Nobody can ever hear it. Mm-hmm. And, you know, and like I said, I don't begrudge the industry anything. And I certainly don't feel like it owes me anything. But the point of all that is, if I'm really looking for a vehicle for personal expression, I might need to return to some more fundamental mediums, you know, like books or being a cult leader.
Both. Maybe the cult will read your books first.
Yeah, they'll have to.
That's how it takes
They'll
off.
have to.
Yeah, that's how it catches fire.
That's the initiation. If you sell a show to, like, I'm just going to make up and say HBO, I have no idea, but if you sell a show to a studio and they don't produce after a certain amount of time, do they just hold it forever, or could you take it and sell it somewhere else?
Depends on your contract, depends on your deal. 2 of the 3 things I wrote did come back to me, but then you're dealing with, well, those projects have already been to market. Yeah. And they did sell. And then they didn't happen. And so then you're kind of left trying to sell secondhand goods. And the way it used to work before the sort of implosion and contraction of the industry in 2020, and it continues to go on. Before that, my experience was, look, I'll write a couple scripts and come up with an idea, and we'll use those scripts to get some great actors, and then we'll take them with the great actors to networks or studios, and somebody will buy it. And that still happens, except it used to lead to a TV show, and now it's really up in the air. And I know it's not just my problem. I mean, everybody in the industry is talking about it. People who are on overall deals and at higher levels than me, are like, they haven't gotten to actually make something in a couple years, and that's the
It's
hard
funny
part.
'cause it just seems like so much TV, just such garbage. It's like
Yeah,
weird. It's
100%.
weird to hear. And I did see, because you talked about that a little bit last time, and I did look it up, where everybody's saying like the industry is, as a consumer, on the consumer side, it's like, man, why? I wonder why there's so much crap on TV now. And then on like the artist side, it's like we're making it and it's not getting made. What's the disconnect?
Some of it, well, I think a lot. I mean, I think there has been a general lowering in the quality of goods and services in this
Mhm.
country for a solid 10 years, maybe more. And it's reflected in everything. It's not just reflected in home improvement and contractors and things like that. It's reflected in the public sector. It's reflected in private industry like entertainment. Um,
I, I
there has been a kind of crisis of competency
right.
in all areas of life, and I just apply that to entertainment too. Is that, well, a lot of this stuff is so bad because the people making it aren't very good at making it, and that's it.
Well, if I may interject, I think something that seems to be kind of omnipresent is that people don't have the same attention span as they used to, because they watch,
Yeah, that's true.
30-second videos, and or even shorter 10-second videos. And so some of the things we're starting to understand is that, like, the content they're putting out is made for people that can't follow an adult style storyline. You have to recap the story every 10 minutes so that people know what's going on, rather than just giving it your undivided attention. And so that's a bunch of crap. I mean, that's not how you make television. And so I think sometimes that is part of the problem, is like, your
Yeah.
stuff is so good that people
Well,
are just, they don't want to take the risk.
I still
You gotta
say
wait for the payoff,
Yeah, I'm
right?
wrong. I'm biased.
I mean, my feeling is if I could just make something and put it out, we'll win culture. Like I know how to do that. I've My stuff's just been kind of on the shelf these last few years, but I think it's also what the aim is of entertainment and any industry. And when any industry gets away from its primary functional goal and instead devotes itself to promoting, you know, um, political ideologies or demographic surveys or something, the fundamental purpose of that industry is going to suffer. So if the fundamental purpose of entertainment is to entertain and expand its audience, but what it's
It's an agenda.
but what its agenda is something completely different from that, you're you're going to see quality fall, and we see that across the board in every industry in this country. I think film and TV is has been moving away from that in recent years because I think most of the studios and networks got the message that people really don't like that people really don't want an agenda with their art and entertainment. And fortunately, the entertainment industry is still a business. So at some point they realized, oh, we can't just make broad ideological statements. We actually need people to watch this stuff and like it. And so then you have to go back to the first principles, which is, yes, you're supposed to make things that people want to watch and that people like watching. And I think they're starting to get back to that.
I was hoping that it was like, my theory on it without knowing anything was like, during COVID, it must have been really hard to get people together. So we're just like, we're kind of filtering through all the crap before it gets good again. But it's, I guess, disappointing to hear what you're saying, because it doesn't sound like it doesn't sound like it's going to snap back, but maybe people kind of voting with their
It's
attention
you
and
vote
money,
with your
right?
eyeballs. And so if you look at what the most successful movies have been or what the most successful TV is right now, it's generally stuff that's stayed far away from having any kind of ideological agenda and just kind of good old fashioned storytelling with compelling characters.
Yeah.
So for me, it's about the industry getting back to first principles. And I think a lot of industries and a lot of people would be served by doing that. Like, what is our purpose here? What's the primary purpose? Let's make sure we're doing that primary purpose really, really, really well. And any other considerations are for later on.
Last thing on this topic, and I swear I'll let us move on. We had, as you know, we had Neil McDonough on, and he talked about being in a similar situation, not the same, but similar enough. And he basically kind of rejected it and went skipped a step. It sounds like skipped the middleman and started kind of self-producing with some companies. As somebody again who knows nothing about the industry, but you obviously have some a big reputation and a lot of success in the industry. Could you just do that? Could you bypass the middleman and
I mean, to a degree, but if I'm making a TV show, that's going to be 50 to $100 million, and I still need a network to stream it and a studio to put it out. And if I make an independent film, that could be anywhere from $5 to $15 million, and I still have to find a distributor for it. And just as a working class guy, I kind of have this temperamental rule against, like, I only play with the casino's money, you know? Um, and I've thought about it. I'm not sure what that path would be. And I still get so much work from the studios and the networks that it hasn't really come up. And so not only would I be putting my own money into something, but I would be taking a huge pay cut just in absenting myself from the market. So with the family and everything, that hasn't seemed so doable, but it may come to that soon.
I was thinking with the TV shows that you're saying like that are kind of second rate or not second rate, second time on the market. It's like rather if nobody wants to buy them, but you think they're good, it's like could you just do it without them? But you do still need someone to stream it, right? I don't
Yeah,
know.
yeah, you have to have
Really easy in my seat. I just want more stuff that you're making on TV.
Thanks. So do I. Thank you. But yeah, it's you still have to find a way to get it in front of people.
In your individual episodes, you talked about your Christian faith playing a big role in your relationship, but faith often calls for patience, while creativity often demands urgency. As two creatives, how do you hold those two without one distorting the other?
I think it's kind of a similar feeling to what I was trying to describe earlier, where personally, I have to let go of how my industry used to be, because the music industry is it's to say it's died is an understatement, and what it is now is a fascinating sight, because you have things like AI on the charts. You have AI bands on the charts that people are listening to. They're robots, and then you have streaming for music, which it's so interesting. I just put a song out 2 weeks ago, and I've been something I never used to do, but Spotify has artist pages where you can see how much is streaming every week, and I was getting it was collectively about 60,000 streams a week with different songs, but I can't buy a black coffee with that. That's not enough accumulated income. And so I'm not the only one in this boat, right? So to say, just between the urgency of creativity and the patience with my faith, I have faith that I'm supposed to be making music in the capacity of its journey and release. I've got to give it my 100% in the tool set that I have, and that I'm aware of what I can do. But I I don't really know what's supposed to happen with music. And so that's where I have patience, and I've also let a lot of things go, because if I'm just trying to force this thing through, it's not going to happen. And what I believe is we're kind of going to have like sort of two types of people, and this applies to film and television as well. I think there's people that are really comfortable with the technology and the way things are evolving in sort of these inhuman ways, and it's maybe more convenient or whatever. And then I think there's other people that are almost on an artistic renaissance, that value human excellence and human craft and genuine material, whether it's music or storytelling. And I hope I'm answering that question properly, like in terms of faith and patience and urgency and creativity. I'm just, I think the beast of both of these industries, beasts are changing every day, and the difficulties, if you choose to absorb the disappointments and setbacks, it's gonna hurt. So I worked really hard to let them go, but trust in the gifts I was given, that they're going to be utilized in some way. Whether 10 people hear my music or 10 million, it doesn't, or it happens after I die someday. My music's going to live on. And so I feel a duty to write and sing and perform and release music, but I have no expectations on what's going to happen. And that also in turn gives me such a fulfilling life with my family, because our life is so big in the micro way, like waking up together and playing with the kids and having such a quality life from just inside our home. That exchange is everything to me. And so I actually don't really feel the urgency for my creativity as much. It's just in a flow,
I was just going to offer that I am the least qualified person on the planet Earth to talk about patience. So,
It's true.
and
100%.
and my whole life, I've always felt like I was running out of time. I mean, when I was a little kid, I felt my life was disappearing underneath my feet, and I've always felt like that. I think releasing expectation is a really great place to create from. I guess the gulf for me isn't between patience and urgency. It's about a more general way of letting go and trusting whatever path I've been put on is the right one, and just trying to listen a little bit to God in my heart, and what I should do next and where I should be. And having Suzanne in our family is a great help with that, because whenever I'm with her, I never have to wonder if I'm in the right place doing what I'm supposed to do. And that has always been a source of, I don't know what you call it, neuroses for me. Am I doing what I'm supposed to be doing? Am I in the right place? Am I hitting all my responsibilities? And it's really just noise. And she makes the noise quiet down a lot for me.
What a great way to describe it. I love that. What practices keep your creative work from becoming the place you seek identity or worth?
I mean, honestly, my work is still where I get a lot of identity and a lot of worth, because as a man, my sense of self-worth is directly related to what I provide for those I love. And so I identify sometimes over much with being a provider and making sure everybody has what they need. And that is fulfilling for me. And it makes me feel that I am of service to the people I love. But in truth, I would probably be much healthier if I didn't rely on things like that. And I saw myself as a child of God who's doing the best he can, and has the love of this beautiful woman and these great kids. And that is enough. That's more than enough. But for me personally, I can't get away from the feeling that I owe them all something. And, what I owe them is I shanghaied them all into into being in my world, So like I tricked this woman and we had babies. And now they're all stuck with me. And I got to make sure they're taken care of.
Big reveal on your podcast. I had no idea this was going on.
Yeah. But I'm not even sure if I should get out of that because it serves the people I love. But I would say in the main, I probably have a bit more trouble with self-worth and identity than Suze does.
Well, it's always changing, and I've had some really difficult times with it. But in terms of practices, I started taking my social media off my phone, and I feel 1,000 times better about myself and what I identify with, and who I identify as. And prayer always brings me back to that place of oneness, and those anxieties or those misperceptions of myself really wane when I'm able to have a steady practice of prayer. And I think the social media thing is really hard for a lot of people. It's really dark. It's really a main cause of mental illness, in my opinion. And so the sad part is I guess need to do it for music. And I started working with someone who's helped me a lot with like posting, but the goal is to, not having expectations, but having motivation are different things. And I'm still motivated to put in the effort I think is required for this work. And part of that is playing this game on social media, which really messes with your identity, really messes with like where you value yourself. Because if you get caught up in the attention and the likes or the dopamine, it's really nefarious. I think it's really unhealthy for your intimate relationships, etc. So I play the game. I have someone who gives me like an agenda of, okay, I need this, this, and this from you this week. So I have to film myself. Then I send it off to her, and then I turn it off because I don't want to be wrapped up in this thing. And I want to come back to my love and myself. And so as a practice, that's been really difficult, but the more I do it and I stick with it, I sleep better. I have a better time. I have less anxiety. I'm not worried, and so I think those were practices for me that were really important. And just trying to stay in my gratitude. Like Nic said earlier about time. He's always felt like he was out of time and running out of time. And even here, it's too late kind of thing. And that's something I try to work on with you, but I've always felt my whole life like I'm almost there. Like whether it was with my career or anything, or like getting in shape, almost there. And the only time I ever felt like, oh my gosh, we're here, I'm here, was when I met my husband. And so to me, now I'm just like in this place where I want to enjoy this. I want to enjoy this beauty. So sorry. As a practice, just trying to stay in my gratitude is one of the best things I could do for myself and for him and the kids.
Yeah, for sure. And I still feel like as the father and husband, it's my job to worry so nobody else has to, kind of.
I know. I wish you didn't feel like you had to, shoulder that by yourself, because you don't. I can worry just as good.
No, I don't want you guys. I don't
Give me
want
some
you
of
guys.
that worry sandwich.
That defeats the purpose. like the whole
We can
point.
split the sandwich.
No, the whole point is that like I want to be the one on the wall so everybody else can sleep. easy.
Always the sacrificial lamb, this one. He doesn't have to do it.
Who else is gonna?
I can
I
handle
can't.
it.
I mean, that's not for you. That's not for you.
I think and this, I don't know what's considered sexism anymore because I think guys and girls are different. I think it's a guy thing because that's how I feel with I know my dad with all of us, he was always like, I'll take the brunt of any situation. No matter what, who has to have the worst, whatever. We didn't get enough food. Who's going to eat the least? We have to travel. Who's going to be the least comfortable? We have to, like, it's always my dad. And now I do that with my family. I think it's like hardwired into guys.
Well, it's because you guys are good men. It seems to me. I don't know that it's universally male, but yeah, it feels proper to me. Like I'm not working this hard so that they can be stressed and unhappy. And that's what you want for the people you love, and for the gentle things in your life is that they can remain gentle and be taken care of.
It's funny because kind of back to Suzanne, what you're talking about social media. I'm 100% in agreement with you. And I think too, I'm hoping like you talked about almost like a renaissance of humanity against social media and I just saw this thing not that long ago, maybe a month ago, like Australia banned social media for everybody under the age of, I think it's like 13 or something. Yeah. And I know people who, I don't have a huge social circle, so I'm not a great person to ask, but the people that I do interact with that have kids, and it seems like in kind of what you're saying, like I don't use social media. I try to have somebody, if I have to go on it for something for work or promote the podcast, something like that, I try to have it be somebody else. If I go on, I set like a 5-minute limit on my phone so I can go on, like respond to stuff and then get out of there.
Yeah.
And I'm hoping there's this kind of a big rejection against social media and against that way of society.
And it's so tough. I have seen children I've known in my life, like, known them since they were young and, they're getting older, and once they got smartphones and TikTok, they were like different kids. They've become, there's some things like their attention span, their presence, it's different.
They're zombified.
Mm-hmm. Well, and like, it's just like a Black Mirror episode, the effort put into these videos and trending audio. And it's like, what's this for? And it's, it's like a big joke on everybody. And it's where kids start to hold their value. And, I know what it's done to me as a grown adult, like, let alone to a developing brain of a young person. So yeah, I'm ready to go get some chickens, get a farm, start bow hunting. I don't know.
You talked about too, you were saying like how you finally feel like at this phase in your life, you just want to like enjoy the moment.
Yes.
And it's like we're doing the exact opposite as like people now, like everyone's just, if you travel somewhere, if you go to the store, if you walk around outside, everyone's staring at their phone. There's no human interaction. It's just such a weird.
There was an article about when young children, like Rosie's age, she's 2, a little over 2. When you're around them and you're looking at your phone like this and you're staring for however long, they start to they get anxious because they don't understand your facial expressions. And it creates, there's some sort of behavioral issues that they've started to learn about in young kids where they don't understand what's happening with mom's face when she's staring at her phone. And there's developmental issues that are happening with these kids because we're on our phones.
Yeah. Even like the competing for attention.
Right.
You can always find something like on your phone is limitless entertainment in any subject you want to connect with any person you want in an instant. It's not fair for anybody, let alone a 2-year-old. I've got our kids at a similar age.
Positive when I would scroll, I'd have total resting bitch face, and Rosie would probably be like, "What's wrong? What's wrong with mommy?"
And
Just kidding.
well, it's always been an old saying that comparison is the thief of joy, and that's so much of what social media is fake comparisons. But it used to be the thing for most of human life that to lead a successful life, you didn't want to be in the past too much and you didn't want to be in the future too much. You wanted to be in the here and now for most of your consciousness. And now it's more about who can be in reality.
Right.
Instead of being in these layers of unreality that come through our phones. You know, I mean, I call my phone the box of sadness.
It does.
Because like you turn it on and it's just stuff that's going to make you sad.
Yeah.
Like it, you know.
Nic, you have written deeply into darkness. Suzanne, you have written about it through music. How has faith changed what you believe darkness is actually for?
David Milch, the great television auteur, said something once that I really took to heart and I understood the truth of. But a lot of this didn't happen for me until I met Suzanne. When I met Suzanne, there was like a return to a lot of things in me, including faith, including myself. But David Milch once said, for the longest time, I thought the darkness I lived in and the darkness my characters walked through was necessary for my art. And it is only now at this age that I realize that darkness was only ever the shade cast by the sheltering hand of my creator.
Mm.
And that's really stuck with me. And it's been something that I've seen in my own life that if you stay true to your principles, I believe you will find that the areas of darkness you've had to go through in your life were part of a larger journey. And at the end of the day, they were in some way the shade cast by the hand of your creator as he sheltered you. And that's how I try to look at things now. I mean, even in my darkest work, everything is ultimately redemptive, I think, by the time you get to the end, and not in any sentimental or hokey or false way. When I would write about the darkness and create from the darkness, I was always looking for the redemption of the darkness. I was always looking for what is the human act that is going to redeem all this shit. Because that's really all it takes. All it takes is one act of love, and everything that led up to that act becomes retroactively redeemed. You know, you have that day that transforms your whole life. Like for me when I met Suze, and everything leading up to that day then retroactively becomes redeemed because it was steps on a path. And the more I can take a big picture view of things and not be lost in too much of the specific incidentals, I'll feel a sense of the bigger shape of my arc and the arc of humanity. And it does seem redemptive to me. It doesn't seem like darkness anymore.
I think that my relationship to darkness is so transformed at this point in my life. I think like you said, in God's plan, you know, darkness serves a purpose for people at different times. You know, sometimes the darkness is what makes you get up in the morning and just do the thing, or, you know, take better care of yourself, like fueled by anger or rage, you know, or resentment. And then those are opportunities that you have to heal and alchemize that into something useful, which essentially is redemptive or the light. But I also, at this point in the way I see the world, you know, I believe in the fallen angels, and I think there are some really dark influences right in front of us, and it's wild to see it. You know, to see sort of demonic influence in people and some really terrible things. Talk about the box of sadness, the things you see on your phone, and what's happening to people in society. And I'm saying a blanket statement because I just don't want to get too into it, because then it gets political. But those demons and you know, spiritual sickness that is everywhere really makes me speak to the light more on a personal level. in the way that I pray, but the way that I approach my faith. Um, and it's wild because it's almost like when I was younger, I think the thought of demons or that kind of darkness was so terrifying. I just didn't want to believe in it. I didn't believe in it. And now I don't think it's possible to not believe in it, because it feels like they're right here in front of our faces. And so, yeah, I guess it just keeps me closer to my faith and my own journey, and trying to guide my children properly and as best as I can away from some of these really dark things that are available to everybody.
And I never had a problem with not believing in the darkness. I mean, if anything, I attached too closely to it. At a very young age, I mean, in a few instances, I encountered real evil. Like there's no explanation for this. I don't care about the socioeconomic factors of whatever. This is evil.
Mm-hmm.
And there's one way my work's changed is everything I wrote probably up until 45. I was writing to save my own life. I was writing to find the pearl of grace I could take with me out of this darkness that was going to give me a vision to live for. And that's changed for me because now all my reasons for living are externalized. And I don't feel the need to excavate my own pain. And I've found like I'm just as good, if not better, as a creator without doing that. And that it had its time, but I don't create from that space anymore.
You both speak clearly about restraint. How do you know when restraint is obedience rather than fear?
Well, the other thing I'm not qualified to talk about is restraint. I still tend to be a kind of all or nothing guy in a way.
Well, and we're both Italian, so we're like run our engines hot.
But that's a great question about if restraint is properly put, if it's obedience or perhaps discipline, and if it's fear, and if it's just fear, then it's wrong on some basic level, and if it's obedience, you better make sure you're obeying the right thing, I guess. But I suppose it's like everything else in life. If you're going to take the time to engage it properly, it's probably coming from one of two places: love or fear, right? Love expands us and gives us courage. Fear shrinks us and contracts us and inhibits our agency, right? And I think you just have to keep examining yourself and keep examining your motives to make sure this restraint is an act of discipline I am choosing.
Yeah.
It is not an act of fear that is choosing me.
I think you help me with that a lot. When I'm, it's hard to like pick a subject of things I need to restrain from. I think sometimes my anger at the world, like, when I want to, and I haven't done this in a while, but like when I want to
I like where this is going already.
comment section of some, new hot button issue. And a lot of people don't like what I'm going to say. And Nic usually helps me understand that, there's not much reward in this.
And nobody ever had their mind changed by somebody putting them in their place in a comment section.
Right.
Like I just don't believe that's how you affect the world.
Well, and in a lot of ways that's part of this, rage bait and things that take you out of your spirit and your divinity and your obedience to God. So I think that you've helped me with that a lot. And and like my big fears when I bring them to you as my best friend. Like you always, I save a lot, like for texting.
Mhm.
There, Nick, he's prolific. So I have all these jewels of text where I'm like, hey baby, I'm really worried about blah, blah, blah. And you'll just give me this, and I'm like, I'm good. I'm okay. All right. Thank you. I love you. And that's a real treat. I'm a lucky gal.
Yeah, I try to be angry enough for everybody, so they don't have to be angry either.
I don't know. I've got plenty of it, but it is important to put that stuff in its proper place.
It seems hard too with like nowadays with it's like you want to say to people like get off your damn phone, but you also like Nick to your point, you're not going to change anyone's opinion doing that. But I don't know the right way to
Yeah.
get through to people.
Or like, I'm on X. Am I monitoring the situation, or am I addicted to these dozens of little dopamine hits I get from people who think like me, articulate themselves? And I mean, really, so much of this confusion around our own motives and what should we do next, it comes from the world permeating all our boundaries now.
Yeah.
Like it, and I'm not an old man who's like, things used to be this or that, but it is a fact that you used to be able to live your life and the outside world intruded on it in a larger sense to a degree that you engaged it, but probably you just watched the news at 6 o'clock or 10 o'clock and that was all your news for the day.
Right.
You didn't have a box of sadness in your pocket that was making sure you heard everything it wanted you to hear all the time. And it's not even the social media and the news either. It's the amount of texts we get.
Right.
Like I'm not like, if everybody you're texting is a good friend of yours, I'm still not sure that the way to live your life is to be having 12 different conversations going on at all times with 12 different friends, even while you're engaging your family and you're doing something. Oh, let me answer this text. Let me answer this text. Let me answer this text. Like, used to not be like that. If you wanted to talk to a friend and you hadn't seen him in a while, you'd make a phone call and you guys would talk for an hour or two and catch up. And that was great. But being available at all times, not just for other people, but for the machinery of the media world is tough. And it's confused a lot of people about where they are and what they're meant to be doing.
It also costs nothing, right? Like for me to text you, I could text you, it'd take half a second, no brain power. I could just text, hey Nick, how you doing? And now you have to sit there, you take away time from your family. And
you used to have to keep plans when you made plans, because there weren't a million ways to check in and cancel and make alternatives. If you wanted to talk to somebody on the phone, you made a phone date because you don't know if you're going to be able to catch them or not.
I wonder too if there's I don't know. I think so. Maybe I'm a little too glass half full on this. I think we're going to go the other way. It's like societally. And there's this guy, his name's Scott Galloway. He has a lot of podcasts, does a lot of interviews and stuff. I was listening to something the other day he was talking about, and he said the smartest people on earth aren't trying to figure out how to solve world hunger or world peace or anything with energy. They're trying to figure out how to get you to pick up your phone and look at it. And then when you do look at it, how do we get you to stay? And then how do we get you to not close out of it? And then when you do finally close out, how do we get you to come back? And the point of it was like, if you're on it, you will have a problem. Like it's not, no human brain is designed to like go on to these things, get bombarded with thousands and thousands of addictive techniques and just say, nope, I'm better than that and walk away.
Well, and technologically for over a decade, we have been stagnant. Absent Tesla and SpaceX, we've been technologically stagnant, because what engineers and scientists used to do, which is invent things to make our lives easier and more effective, that energy now goes towards developing apps. Mm-hmm. And exactly what Galloway said, that now that ingenuity is put toward trapping your attention and making you addicted.
Yeah. I'm hoping we can break through, but
I
the
hope
back
so
of the
too.
car. Just like,
I like your glass is half full optimism. We need a little more of that around here.
I think more people too are hopping off their smartphones. I'm almost there to get a Wise phone or a Light phone, which is just like they're black and white. There's no color on them. There's talk, text, email, navigation, and I think podcasts and music. So it's just like basic stuff. So you're not there, like there's no scrolling. There's no and even then I might take my email off, but the more I take away, the better I feel. And and I feel like I want to win this war. And I think a lot of people want to get their consciousness back and their mental integrity. I finished a book last month and it was such a huge accomplishment that I want to do it again. And I feel smarter when I read books. I feel dumber when I look at my phone. And I think there's a lot more people that are waking up to that. And, the undeniable mental illness among us all of just and what's happening to our kids. It's like if anyone cares to feel better and they start just doing a little bit of research, you're going to get it right away. And then it's up to you if you want to have a better life.
I have this theory that most people don't even know how they feel
Oh
anymore.
yeah, absolutely.
That everybody just feels vaguely depressed and anxious. But that's not even their feelings. That's a reaction to technology and media. So your technology and media is keeping you anxious and vaguely depressed. But if you took it all away, there's going to have to
Your
be that
own
return.
original thoughts.
You're going to have to. I mean, so then we're going to be left with mankind's oldest problem, which is what Pascal said. All man's troubles originate from his inability to be alone in a room. Mm-hmm. Like all our problems generate from being unable to be alone with our thoughts. And so that's going to be the first thing we have to tackle again is what am I when all the noise and distraction is shut off? What do I really think? What do I really feel? And that'll be the base to start to build something else.
I'm in for the cult. Let's
Welcome to our bunker.
I have a pamphlet I can send you.
You have to send it in the mail, though. I don't have a phone. My phone doesn't accept anything.
As parents, how has responsibility reshaped your sense of urgency around work?
Well, it's different for me because I'm not the provider. Like I said earlier, I really can consolidate my work in ways that I'm comfortable now with how long it takes to release music or how long it takes for me to make it when I'm giving our kids the love and attention that they need, and the presence that they need from mom. So my urgency is not that urgent. It's more like I said, I'm kind of in a flow with it. It's not my top priority. Now I know you feel differently.
Well, I mean, I would say I don't think my urgency's changed because I always felt a sense of urgency. And probably what's changed is I used to create for me and only for me. And now I create for other people, whether it's my family or just the audience. But I guess I think about others a lot more than I used to.
Yeah,
and
that's great.
And I think about what I'm serving them. Like, is this ultimately nutritious? Am I telling stories that are worth hearing? Stories that might expand the people who hear them? Or am I just trying to therapize myself? And so that's what's changed for me, is that I create for others.
I don't want to hijack what you said, but I can kind of say the same. You were more articulate with it, but I feel like my work is more devotional than urgent. Like I'm devoted to music, and when I create it and release it and all the steps involved, it's because I feel like it's my honor to God with the gifts I was given. But I don't feel it's urgent because like I said, I have no expectations of the outcome. So it's more like, all right, I'm going to do this, and you do with it as you will.
It's funny too, with you're saying like expectations. And I think this is for all three of you. I'll get on my high horse. All three of you being like creatives in your own way. It's like, you're like, I don't have any expectations. And then earlier, you're like, yeah, my song was streaming like just like 60,000 a month. Like if you had 60,000 people in one place, you could fill up like a football stadium in 1 month. That is so insane. I was saying this to my dad when we first started the podcast, is he was like, basically, he's like, I don't want to do it if I want to have like it be successful and grow. Like my dad doesn't, he's competitive in literally every single thing, which I get. But
That's a
I
great
was saying to him, it's great, but it's like if you had, we went to when we agreed to start the podcast, we were in Orlando, Florida, and or maybe right before, right after, whatever, and we went to like Circus Olay, and we were in this theater thing that sat like say 500 people, and I was like, Dad, the problem is you've heard, and I've heard that Joe Rogan has 100 million people listening. So 500 sounds like nothing, but imagine if we went up on the stage and there were just 500 people sitting here listening to us. And it's like, to your point, to your numbers, Suzanne, it's like 60,000 people is so many damn people. It doesn't sound like a lot when you hear whatever, Taylor Swift has 1 billion, whatever it is. But it's just like, it's almost like the human part of it. It's funny when you're like, like I don't have expectations. And my dad with like his writing books, he's like, I don't, his 2 books ago is #1 New York Times bestseller. This one, like, we'll see what happens. No expectations. And Nick, you've got True Detective. It's like all three of you have been so successful in your field. It's almost like the never enough thing, right? Like,
Well, I
no matter
definitely
what you achieve.
like it'll never be enough, and it's not about success or audience. It's just I know when I leave this world, I'm going to feel I didn't do enough, and I'm going to feel I didn't do enough with what I was given. And so for me, it's never enough.
But there's so much that's out of your control that makes you feel that way.
But
you
even
know?
so, I could have done more. I could have done more. I could have done more.
Do you think you'd be in as great a shape as you are if you had done more?
I mean,
I know you go to the gym.
I could do more right now. I mean, I just I think about what I was given and what I'm capable of. And yeah, I'm one of those people whose potential haunts him, because no matter what I do, when I leave this world, I will feel that I missed my potential by a large margin.
I think the only way to like combat that, not to the same degree that you have, but I feel like that too. Like I can't sit still for long.
Yeah.
Like I joke and I say like, if your life's going good, call my older brother. If life's going bad, call me, because I'm like, let's get to how do we fix, how do we, but it's like the only thing that makes me slow down is like family stuff. Like I'm sure Nick, when you're with Rosie, that it's like,
Yeah.
who gives a shit about the next whatever writing I have to do?
Well, that's another instance of I never worry if I'm where I'm supposed to be. Like if I'm with my little girl, I know I'm right where I'm supposed to be, and I get to see the world through her eyes insofar as I'm willing, and that's like,
That's been beautiful.
an internal cleanse,
Yeah.
kind of. But yeah, that's just how I feel, is that no matter what I did, I didn't do enough.
I had a very similar thing, Nick. There's a part of me that is always pushing to do more regardless. My family and faith have been the only thing to quiet that voice. What quiets that voice for you, or brings your self-identity back to a more human place?
I guess the practice of my relationship helps a lot. Like simply being in this, the thing between the two of us, I have found, is so powerful for me that it overrides a lot of personal neuroses. And it's fulfilling and demanding, and often very, very, very joyous, but not always. But seeing myself as Rosie and Allegra's father, as Suzanne's man, that helps me more than the other identity, which is I'm an artist. I'm going to set the world on fire. People need to know what I have to say. I got to show them what I'm going to do. I'm going to show people what I can do. And I used to, I believe I talked about this on my episode, but I certainly my earliest artistic efforts, right up through season one, were in some way acts of defiance and defiance toward where I'd come from and the life I'd been handed, and even some measure of spite maybe, but it all came from a place where I think a lot of good art comes from is a fundamental core of inadequacy that that I am inadequate. I'm not enough, and that's why childhood was what it was. That's why this other stuff was what it was, because I wasn't enough. And so now I'm going to go in the world and I'm going to do stuff and I'm going to show that I'm enough. I'm going to show that I'm adequate. I'm going to show that I'm better than all those things and those people I came from. And that even before Suzanne, like that had to stop because that can get you somewhere, but when you reach the middle of your life, it's not going to take you the rest of the way. And you're going to have to look hard at what your motivations have been and where you've been working from. So I was already sort of doing that. And then when I met her and how we progressed and what's been built between the two of us, I just feel more a sense of myself there than I do from accomplishments. And I also got to see that, oh, I got everything I wanted. And I did it exactly the way I wanted. And I don't feel like I don't feel it's my identity. I wish it had become my identity, but in my core, I'm still a scared little boy who doesn't think he's worthy of love. And so having achieved my dreams, I was still in that place. So that was the first clue that work isn't going to save you. And in fact, that woman's not going to save you. That love's not going to save you. Like you're going to have to realign your priorities and your beliefs and save yourself because nothing outside of you is going to do that.
It's funny on your Suzanne's episode the whole time talked about how much she loved you, Nic. Nic, your whole episode is basically talking about how much you love Suzanne with a little bit of True Detective mixed in there and a little bit of music and Suzanne's.
Yeah,
and now we got you guys together.
I was surprised that was such a popular episode. I was like, people really want to hear me talk about how much I love my wife that much?
I guess a lot of people love Suzanne. That's really what it is.
That's nice.
I've had a lot of people reach out to me, just knowing just like random people that maybe I met once or twice or went to high school with or college with, and be like, I'd love to write. I mean, everybody, I guess, would probably love to write, but I love to write. I listened to Nic talk in the episode, like, well, how cool. Anyways, I think that was a big, I think whether, I don't know, it's not like, you've done a lot more prolific things, but I think you inspired a ton of people on that episode. I think that was like the big.
Oh no.
I have a lot of theories on this. I think, and this is why I think, comes back to the cult leader or perhaps, just a motivational speaker. Nic has an innate ability to speak to men in the ways that lend support and masculinity, but also accountability. And you're an artist, but you're a man. So you have like these two sides to yourself of vast emotion. And then like, you're pretty hardcore in a lot of ways. And I think that, just the way that you greet the world and the way that you are this just vessel of poetic words and emotions, like they land on people and we never forget the things that you say. They always have such an impact. And it's, his vessel of genius, I think, really has so much more than writing TV shows and film. And I believe that only because there's some powerful good in you that speaks to people in these ways that's very healing and transformative.
You do. It's like there's like a an aura is not the right word. It's almost like this has a negative connotation. It's almost like a spell. Like when you're talking, it's like,
Well, there's a reason they call it spelling.
yeah,
Like seriously, like the only magic is words.
yeah,
I always felt like that. But I guess what I always wanted for myself and for the men I liked and the men I like best are like this, is that they're not one thing. Like I always wanted I didn't want to be a poet and I didn't want to be a warrior. I wanted to be a warrior poet. And that to me is my ideal man, is
yeah.
a warrior poet. Is
It's like
someone,
the like Renaissance man is kind of like people used to say about my dad all the time growing up, and still do. But
yeah,
I used to hear like very often people be like, "Your dad's like the last true Renaissance man."
he is.
#1 New York Times bestselling author, first round draft pick in the NFL is like and
Lawyer.
lawyer and
Yeah.
whatever, blah blah blah. It's kind of like that. It's like
Yeah.
depth.
I wanted men to inhabit physical and emotional strength while also being attuned to the beauty of art and the beauty of life that expands you.
I feel like that type of man is really discouraged in society too. Like to really embody your masculinity and power, it's you fellas are under attack, and it's unacceptable in my opinion. And the way that you embody it commands respect from a lot of people, and I think it has a lot of worth.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Well, a couple more years of not having anything go into production, and we're going to fire up the cult. And,
We're gonna take this thing on the road. That'll be fun. We should get an RV.
push Jordan Peterson to the side.
Bye.
The funny thing about you saying the cult is that's what all my siblings, my wife say to me, that I'm trying to be a cult leader because we all live on the same lane. And I'm saying we should put like gates around the whole thing. And they're like, oh, so what point do we start sharing a religion that's not a mainstream religion? I'm like, no, come on. But it's just so fun. The cult, it's just right this far away from a cult is the perfect place to be.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Community without the cult.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, let's get off the cult and on to giving. Suzanne, you've described music now as an act of service. Nic, do you experience writing the same way or differently?
Depends on what I'm writing. It really depends. There's things I'm working on now that I don't want to write. Like if my life was just me doing what I wanted, I wouldn't be writing them. But they're good jobs and they provide for my family, so I'm doing them. And in that way, I feel like it's an act of service toward my family, but it's not it's not a spiritual act of service. And then conversely, when I'm writing my original stuff and it's something that generated in my heart and my spirit, when that's going well, I don't even feel like I'm creating. I feel like I'm participating in something. I'm a vessel and something is flowing through me, and my job is to not stand in its way and to bear witness. And in that way, when I am working like that, which isn't all the time at all, but when I get to work like that, I feel God and I feel myself in service to God then. So I guess it's two different kinds of service, and it involves two different kinds of creation. But I'm still, I'm still, because of my role in the family, I'm still a where's my money guy.
When one of you feels called to rest and the other feels called to create, how do you honor both without tension?
I don't think we've really run into too many problems in that way. I mean, we have someone who helps us 3 days a week with Rosie, and that's my time to work. But I mean, I think Nic's work always comes first, in my opinion. I mean, he needs he's the provider. The time it takes him to work, I I kind of feel like it's my duty to help him and facilitate his comfort. And I mean, I could write a song in the bathroom. Like I like I can, I can just kind of create from making notes for a song that I can tend to later. And I don't feel like I lost something. And
And I tend to need like hours strung together without
uninterrupted.
disturbance.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, we don't really have any like
But we don't, but we create separately. So it's sort of like, yeah, you want to go work, go ahead.
I think when I have some shows that come up, that can be a little tricky just because, I don't like when I leave and you don't like when I leave. But like when I do them, it's really important. It's important to me and to my work, but I don't like to be gone for long. Like, never more than a week at this point. If it were 2 weeks, I don't know if I can handle that.
That's
You'd
probably
have to come with me.
that's probably more what it is how we stay together and
Right.
work. Because every day it doesn't matter if how hard I'm working or whatever. Around 4 it usually shuts down, and then we're together with the family, and we're together in our evenings. I'm usually too wiped to keep working at the end of the day, so we just get to be together. But I was away for about 3 months directing a movie in 2024, and unlike my past life, I saw like, okay, we're not doing this again. I don't want this. I don't want to be away from my family like that. And so if I do this again, everybody's going to have to come with me. Like that's the only way I do this again.
But let's be honest, he was filming in Las Vegas. And like we went out there a lot, but damn, nobody wants to be in Las Vegas for that long, if ever, depending on who you ask. It was a long run.
Let me throw this in.
Poor guy.
Dead sober in Las Vegas.
Yeah, you crushed it. You did great.
Yeah.
You did a good job.
Nic, your creative process, you said, I mean, I can't remember the exact bottle of choice, but you said you used to take a bottle of something, go out to the shed, and you'd finish a season in like a weekend.
No.
Or not a season, an episode.
I would write an episode a week in season 1, and then to celebrate, I would like drink a bottle of Jameson's and and take a day to recover, and then start the next episode. But it was almost like a way to flush out my mind. It's like a way to hit the reset button to erase the magnetic tape. I don't do that anymore. Obviously.
Other than the bottle of Jameson, has your creative process had to change now with like the shutting down at 4 and spending the family time, whereas before you were
It's not right at night anymore.
No, yeah, like I used to do a thing where if I had the scent of something, like I was just working, and like I would go work, and I'd come in and see the kid and put her to bed, and then I'd go back to work, and I was isolating myself a lot. Part of that was I had been conditioned in isolation, and the other part was that I wanted to be alone, and now I don't want to be alone, and I don't want to be isolated. Now writing for me has become very lonely because I want to be with the people I love, and instead I'm alone in a room making stuff up. So something that's changed for me is I've really had to lean into learning to appreciate what I do and not see it as a burden, which it often was, but to think consciously how lucky I am to have this life, how lucky I am to have this work to do. And then I keep it in its proper place. Like, well, okay, you gave yourself 4 hours to work today. Did you not get it done? That's your fault. That's nobody's fault but yours. That's your fault. You don't need to stay out back, all night and keep yourself away from your love. You need to work better next time you go to work.
Yeah.
And it's generally just a healthier way to work too. Like I just used to burn things at both ends, and wasn't always conscious of what kind of mental state that kept me in. And I just try to be a lot more conscious about that stuff now because I live with a very happy person. And I don't
Most of the time, not always.
most of the time. And I don't want to be the reason, like, I don't want to be the thing that's cutting her off from her joy, because I'm this existentially heavy guy who's, you
What did they
know,
call you when you were young? Didn't they call you Heathcliff in school?
oh, I had a teacher that called me, just a teacher. I took it as a compliment. I thought he was a badass.
Yeah, brooding and dashing.
But yeah, I had an English teacher that we were reading Wuthering Heights, and she started calling me Heathcliff, and I was like, "What the fuck does that mean?" And she was like, "Because you're brooding and you're romantic," and I was like, "How do you know I'm romantic?" And, but I'm sure I've been an easier read than I've suspected for most of my life.
It seems like a big thing that both of you are saying. I'm working on right now is like almost efficiency. That's one of the things that a lot of people ask me, Dad, I'm talking this whole episode like you're not sitting here, but a lot of people ask me like, oh, how'd your dad do this? How'd your dad do that? And I say like his secret was time management. Like I don't know how. I've said this before, so I won't go through the whole thing. But like I would be in school, in elementary school, and they'd be like, someone's parents coming in to read to the class. And I'd look at the door, and be like, dude, like get a hobby. There's no way. And I thought until I was in, I don't even know, like say sixth grade, I thought I didn't know the NFL money was like 20x less than what it is now. So I was like, oh, we're living off the NFL money. I thought my dad announced football games because he liked it. No clue he got paid. I thought he wrote books because he liked it. No clue he got paid. I didn't even know he was like a lawyer. Anyways, it's like, that's something I've been very intentional about, is like trying to get more efficient with that so you can shut down the work and like because it's like working and then spending family time while you're kind of like peeking at your phone, and then they go to bed and you go back to work. It's like it's so miserable at this phase of life.
Yeah, yeah, and I feel like, I turned 50 this year, and Suze was saying she always felt like she was almost there, almost there, almost there in her life, and all my life I felt like I was too late. Like I'm too late. I'm too late. I'm too late. And I was always trying to catch up to something. And, I think the thing I was trying to catch up to was like I was trying to outrun death or something. And now I've reached this point in my life. I've got less in front of me than I have behind me. And I don't want to misspend it. It was easier to misspend.
I don't know. You say that now. Once you start your cult, I think you're going to have a lot going on. That's up ahead.
When I had more time to waste, I was less concerned with misspending it, and now I'm really concerned.
Doesn't everyone in their youth do that though?
I'm sure.
But
even then, I was aware that there isn't enough time. There just is not enough time, and they're not making anymore, and you can't buy anymore.
And what I like to say to Nick is that we have more time than you think, and it's going to be beautiful.
She told me that once.
Steady.
She told me that once when we had been dating about 2 months, and it was one of those times she read my mind. That this used to really, it used to make me very uncomfortable. And there was even a point where I'd almost convinced myself she was like a witch, and she had done something to me, and that's why I was so spun out. But we took a little trip, and we were just laying there, and I was just thinking to myself how I wished I had met her younger, and how it wasn't fair that I was meeting her so late in my own life. And I just thought that to myself while I'm staring at the ceiling, and she just turns to me and goes, we have more time than you think, and it's going to be steady, and it's going to be beautiful. And I was like, okay.
I guess I should marry this witch.
Yeah. Who knows what other plans she has for me. But I was, no, that's just kind of a funny story. That's like me being who I am. When I first met her, it was such an intense experience that wasn't like anything I'd gone through before, that I was kind of half convinced I was mentally ill. That I was like, oh, I'm like having a manic episode or something. I didn't know that happened to me. I am mentally ill. I need to see somebody about this, and really need to put Suzanne in a box.
I have to destroy this immediately.
Yeah. Note to self: must destroy Suzanne.
How do you pray over decisions that audiences will never see and will never know you even made?
I don't really pray over specific decisions. I try to listen to my heart and what it's telling me. And if I'm able to do that, I feel like I'm in line with the universe, with God, with whatever the higher creative force wants from me. And I try to do that. And and I'm also, a classic overthinker. I put plans on top of plans and contingencies on top of contingencies. But more than anything, if it's a big decision, I try to clear my head of my own fears and whatever I'm bringing to the decision from my own experience, whatever corruptive influence experience might be, and just listen to my gut. Really. How about you?
Well, I don't really make things that people don't get to hear.
Oh, wait, did I misunderstand that question?
Mm-hmm.
How do I?
Well, no, I think you answered it well, but if I'm not mistaken,
How do I make artistic decisions?
how do you pray over basically the loss, right? Am I getting that right? Of not getting to make.
Oh.
Yeah, how do you pray over the decision? How do you pray over decisions that audiences will never see, will never know you made?
Right.
Well, I guess at the time I'm making them, I'm still hopeful that an audience will see them.
Right.
And then it's after the fact somewhere that it doesn't get made. And so I'm like, nobody's ever going to see this. That sucks. But the decisions I make when I work, I listen to the work. And if I've done my job and created dimensional characters and we at least had a situation to begin the story with.
You could turn your scripts into books too, right? If you wanted.
Sure.
Sorry.
No. It's that after the initial writing, once I get started and people are speaking and moving around and doing things, I start listening to them, because if I created characters with a proper dimensionality, they will have a will outside of my own. And I really listen to their will. And so whether nobody ever hears it or not, I have a standard as a storyteller that I'm always trying to hit. And increasingly, as I get older, that standard has less to do with my preconceptions to the work and more to do with engaging the process of the work and letting it show me what it wants to be, if that makes sense. And then later we don't make it.
You have both rejected the idea that more visibility equals more truth. What brings more truth in your lives, and how do you prioritize that?
Well, we prioritize each other so much. And, part of that is because we met later in life. And I know you felt similarly. I was lonely my whole life. As much as I'm a happy person and I love people and life, I was always lonely. And I always thought that great love was for other people. And so when we met and were given that enormous gift, that is the truth. And so, between our love and our love for God, I think we derive a lot of truth in that way with our bond. And something that just as a hobby, we have so many books in our house, and we started reading the same books, or Nic has given me a book he thought I would like. And in those ways, like, we cultivate a lot of inspiration together.
Mm-hmm.
And more novels these days than, political books, but just in the term, in regards to knowledge, there's something really powerful that we get to have and that I get to have in union with you, which to me is a different kind of truth. It's the inspiring happiness that doesn't come from a phone, that doesn't come from anything outside, and it's very fulfilling. And in terms of visibility, like for work, that just is what it is, I don't know. For me, it feels good to have recognition for my work, but yeah, that's just changed so much. So, yeah, am I answering that properly?
Yeah, I think you did.
Okay.
For me, it's yeah, I'm not as famous as I once was, and my work isn't in front of the public as much as it once was. But when I was at the absolute apex of my career, I was pretty miserable in my life. And like Suzanne said, I'd been lonely my whole life, and inside relationship or outside of it, I walked alone, and I always felt alone, and I felt that way until I met her. And we also had to work a lot to honor what was between us. I mean, we've gotten through our terrible fights and stuff like that, but I have found that this relationship is a great compass for me. And I guess on the outside, you don't hear as much from me or see my work as much as you used to, but if anybody knows me, they would say how happy I am now. And that, people who loved me, I remember coming to our wedding and telling Suze, like, they had waited so long to see me like this. And I didn't even know that, and I didn't even think about it, but I was like, God, yeah, now that I think about it, some of these people that love me, they watched me be unhappy for a long, long time and do all the things I was supposed to, and still just couldn't touch the joy, couldn't find any, and couldn't trust it if I did. And so now my life is the complete opposite of that, really. And that is much more rich and fulfilling than, oh, the limo's coming to get me to go to Hollywood party number 20. It seems silly to me that was even once a thing that would happen to me. It just seems so far removed from what life is.
It's like you said earlier, it was all the steps to get to here, right?
Yeah, yeah. Now, I do wish she had seen me back in the day.
All the time.
Yeah, I was like, because I was like, God, I wish you knew me when I was somebody.
What a ridiculous thing to say.
I don't think I drove myself anywhere for 5 years.
The love of my life.
People would just come pick me up. They would send cars for me. If somebody wanted to meet me, they would send a car for me. I was like, we could be having brunch with the Downies. And instead, I'm in Austin, Texas, changing diapers.
Rosie, when you watch this in 10 years, he wouldn't change a thing.
Yeah.
No.
No, of course not. All parents know that a big part of the magic of having children is watching them experience the blessings that life has to offer. What is your selfish favorite part of being a parent? Selfishly for me, I loved having 5 amazing friends built into my life that love me as much as they do.
Well, we have a 17-year-old and a 2-year-old. So, there's quite a gap. So, and there's a lot of differences in the 2 gals. One's about to go to college and one isn't even potty trained yet. I think, well, Allegra was my first daughter, so I guess, like, for both of them, I mean, I don't know if the love is just like, you can't, it's everywhere. There's so much love, it's infinite. But I think, watching both girls in their different ways be silly like me is one of my favorite things. And like Rosie, every night she says, "Run naked, mama, run naked." I say, okay. And she just wants to run around the house naked. And then she does. And she's funny. Like she's got a comedic gene. And and so does my mother. My mom's hilarious and silly. And you know, I'm like, haha, you know, my ladies. And just Allie, you know, developing, I met her when she was 12. You know, developing into this beautiful young woman. And when her silly side and, you know, isms that I know she got from me make themselves present, I'm pleased.
Yeah. Yeah. I have
And I like that for her. You know,
I do too.
she needs to have fun. It's a good time.
Yeah. No, she really deserves to have fun.
She does. She does.
Yeah, I really like watching them grow with my oldest daughter. I like watching her acquire new skills and confidence and anything basically that makes me feel like, oh, she's going to be okay. She's going to be okay. Right. I really enjoy that. But I do highly value the silly stuff. And the 2-year-old doesn't walk. She dances everywhere. She just dances everywhere. When she gets excited, she stomps her feet and just does a jig, and she gets so excited just when the whole family's together. That she
if
just
we're all in the same room.
She just starts running laps and cheering, and I really like when I come in from work and I've been in my head all day and I'm maybe even a little heavy, and I just open the door and there's this house full of girls and they're all just laughing. And it makes me so happy. It makes me so happy to watch Suze laugh and the baby laugh and Allie laugh. And I mean, anything else I've ever had or gained in life, it pales so ridiculously next to that. Next to, I mean, I think it's ironic that I live in a house full of women. But it's really funny, and it's really funny, and I like to watch them all be silly together. And
the other, I mean, this was like a little while ago, but our 2-year-old walked up to Nick, handed him a toy, and said, "Here, thank you, Dada," and then went and picked up a call, went hello, and started talking on her fake phone and had a conversation.
Yeah.
Thank you, Dada. Hello? Yeah.
She just walked up and handed me. She walked up and handed me a stuffed unicorn.
That's what it was.
Okay, and she goes, "Thank you, Dada." Hello.
She was busy. Yeah. Who else is supposed to hold the stuffed unicorn?
Or she's seen Suzanne on the phone so much that she would get her toy phone, but the way she would have a phone call go, ha 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 ha. And I was just like, you know, she's doing you, right? Like, she thinks that's how people talk on the phone.
What are you gonna do?
Suzanne, as you look ahead creatively, are there new songs or a new body of work beginning to take shape? And how does this season of life show up in it?
Well, I do have a whole record coming out next year. And I kind of feel like I spent this last year doing a lot of mom stuff, house stuff. And I'm really ready to start writing again. I haven't written in a while. And it's sort of like this itch, and what I need to do to facilitate that is time management. And like I said earlier, like the more I stay off my phone, the better I am, the more inspired I am by life and my surroundings and reading. And so I'm kind of like, the process has changed my whole life. And
we can. But you should talk about your new album and where it comes from.
I should talk about my new album. Okay.
You can tell them the other news too.
Well, so I'm pregnant, and
wow, congratulations.
Thank you. It's really early on, but it changes. We're so excited. But it also, I'm aware that, okay, so I've got about, X amount of months to do some things before I can't for a while. And while I still have a full record to release, which kind comes from such a different place of, I'm just going to say, maturity and fulfillment. And, we were talking about darkness earlier. I think the majority of my work, when I was in Honey Honey and even my first two solo records, they're just from a place of longing and searching, and I did get very used to writing from sadness, and it has been really interesting to write from a place of fulfillment. My new record is called Sympathetic Magic, and coincidentally, a lot of the songs I wrote for Nic's film, that I was pitching for him because he wanted to use some music of mine, and they didn't make their way into the film, but I love them so much, and so they're on this record. But this record has a lot of songs for Nic, and my favorite, I guess, would be a song called God With You. And I'm actually going to release that next month around Valentine's Day. I'm just going to be kind of putting out a few songs here and there before the whole record comes out. But I almost feel like it's one of the most, if not vulnerable songs I've ever written. And it's about feeling like I know God for the first time because of this relationship and this love. And I was raised Catholic. I went to church every Sunday growing up. I know all the prayers. I'm baptized, confirmed, all the things. And I just didn't know God until not that long ago. And so this record kind of encompasses a lot of those sentiments. And I know I kind of went off book because you were asking more about the process, but
No, keep going.
the process is always changing. I mean, we have to move soon because we have another one on the way. And so we're like, there's all these moving parts. And, like I said earlier, I write when I get there. And when I get there, I'm so full of stuff that it's been very rewarding in that sense. Like I don't have to do it every day. And I'm actually really, really happy about that. Like I used to feel like I was missing out. And I did have that, you said something perfectly earlier, haunted by my talent and feeling like I wasted it. I used to have that a lot, but because of the rebalancing of my life and the things that matter the most, I just feel like I have a grace for it and a patience that when it's time and when I have the time, it's all there. I just have to put it together, like a story, but with melody and they are stories, but that's the fun part, and so I also kind of look at that as a gift, like the opportunity to make music and create something is a gift. It's also a duty. But I feel like having that approach kind of takes that malaise of self-pressure and criticism out, and that comparative lifestyle that I'm supposed to be doing what other people are doing. So it's like there is no process anymore. The process is living. And then when I have the time to put it into a song, it's all there. And it's not to say I don't get writer's block, but the vision of the arc of a song and the structure, and then multiple songs as an album, that's already there. Now I just have to like get the tapestries and textures together. But I never used to write like that. I never used to create like that. And so now with so much on our plate, I'm going to make the music when I can.
Can I make an observation?
Oh, please, yeah.
Well, this is just what I noticed about your music between your first two albums and this one. It seems to me like in your first two albums, whatever was there that was raw or racy or whatever, it became clear to me as we've been together and then I've watched your new stuff, is you were always writing about what you didn't have in the past. Like everything was about what you didn't have. And one of the reasons all your subject matter has changed completely is because you're not doing that anymore.
Right.
And now you're almost writing about broadly existential human concerns. Like, it doesn't seem like your diary so much.
Right. Right.
It seems like it's a bigger voice, and it's a more expansive voice. And I mean, and I would like to think it's because, like, now you have all these things, and
Absolutely. And well, all of it's transformative. I mean, like
Mhm.
when we met, it was this opportunity to step into the fullest version of myself, into my femininity, into being your wife, into becoming a mother. And I mean, that changes everything. And you're right, like there isn't a longing for something I don't have. Um, and that's the darkness, that's in darkness serves a purpose. It had a creative purpose. But yeah, it's definitely been an adjustment to write from the light, from a place of empowerment, because something you don't want to do as a songwriter, in my opinion, is like come off as preaching, like that's not, you have to find the right, literal and figurative note on that subject of, you know, speaking of expansion and the world too. Like when you want to sing about the world or write about the world, it's a very delicate path in my opinion, because I don't like someone telling me how to live. Um, but I'm still figuring that one out. It's a little bit of a challenge because I could write a sad song any day of the week. But I don't really want to.
Yeah, I feel like we need more happiness
Like you
too.
could probably write about murder like that, right?
Sure.
Don't tell the people in the cult that part.
I-
Suzanne, if
could-
people are, where's the best place for people to listen to your music when the album, like when it comes out? Is it your website? Is it Spotify? Is it YouTube? Does it make a
On
difference?
all the major streaming services, on Spotify, Apple, all that stuff. But I've been releasing music on a platform called Fountain, which also
That's
Nick
right.
and I have a podcast on Fountain. It's called Pod with You.
Kind of.
And we've got episode 5 coming out. We're trying to get 2 a month. It's been
I
really
listened to a couple. The
Oh,
first
really?
one you
'Cause I
talked
also
about like
think
the
that's
entertainment industry, right, and all that.
Yeah, well, it's not like it's going anywhere. It's still growing. But what I like about Fountain is that anything you listen to on Fountain, and you guys should be on Fountain, you make money. So every listener has a wallet, and it goes through Bitcoin, and you get to decide how many sats, which are pennies to the dollar, people get while they spin your music or your podcast. So I'll listen to my favorite podcasts through Fountain and give people, 50 sats, 100 sats per listen, depending on, how I have my wallet set up. And coincidentally, I released a song on there last year and made $1,300 off one song, which is unheard of. And I might have talked about this on my episode
I
with you
think
guys.
you said it made that one song made more than everything on Spotify combined.
Yes. Like it's,
Yeah.
and their model is just supporting artists and creatives, especially podcasts. And they have a really great social app that's attached to it. There's a couple, but the social app I use is called Primal. It's like their Instagram for Spotify. And I was talking to the people that like started these platforms. I wasn't talking to Jack Dorsey, but Jack Dorsey, who started X, Twitter, he's one of the people behind Fountain.
Oh,
But
cool.
what I learned was, I was like, why is it when I'm on Primal, I'm like kind of interested in what people are saying and I leave feeling good? And they explained to me that there's no algorithm. So it's just people like posting their work or their thoughts. And it's more of like a message board than the things that are foisted into your mind on X or Instagram that have an agenda and a purpose to get you to look and whatever, steal your thoughts. So Fountain is great. You can listen to my music on Fountain, but I'm always on Spotify and all the other ones.
I can't wait to hear it. From the last episode, I love your music. Hey, something I was thinking about lately, and I'd love to get your guys' input on how do you protect joy without insulating yourselves from truth?
I think for me, there can't be joy without truth. if I'm engaged in some kind of pleasant lie, it's probably not too pleasant for me because one thing about I'll give myself is I do have a really good bullshit detector, and I'm very sensitive to dissembly and um, and lies. Like I'm good in person with being able to tell when somebody lies, and pretty good in media with being able to tell when I'm being lied to. But I think so. A fantasy that's a lie is never going to give me joy. I couldn't get joy from it. Joy doesn't come for me from shutting out the world or from shutting out what's bad in the world. It comes from making sure it's in its proper context, and within that context protecting my joy, protecting the sources of my joy. But there is no joy for me without truth. So I don't insulate myself from the world, and maybe I even keep it with me a little too much. But it just wouldn't work for me if I was blocking out the facts of existence. Um, I have to know what I have is real.
Yeah, I really feel the same way. I think I passed blissfully ignorant like a couple million miles ago. Um, and when faced, like truth is the light in my opinion. And when faced with hard truths, I try to look at them as blessings, and on a personal level, just to be grateful that I'm not living in a lie, and that um, you know you're given everything that you can handle. If you couldn't handle it, you would die, right? So life's challenges in those really difficult ways, it's not an immediate joy. It takes dedication to faith and understanding the way life works to metabolize a hard truth. But the truth of the world is, I think, where I struggle the most in order to maintain my joy, because I have such a soft heart for everybody. And so I feel so much pain from the terrors and horrors of the world. And so I have to work really hard to come back to my joy. Um, and like I think I'm just a painful optimist. Like I can never not think it's always going to get better, even if everyone's telling me it's going to get worse. I believe there's always a way through. So I have my joy. Maintaining joy is such a priority, but I can't, I have to come by it honestly. So like when work is to be done, understanding the truth about things, then I'll just do the work.
We just had this guy on the podcast. Hasn't even come out yet, but his name is David Ruth. He's the dean at the University of Austin. I don't know if you guys have seen that because
Oh
you're
yeah,
obviously down there.
yeah.
Where it's like there's no political ideology and anything. It's like just truth only, and yeah,
That's awesome.
yeah,
Yeah, I
kind
was
of a
eager to apply there.
yeah. It's kind of like that. I'm hoping, like we talked about earlier, the Renaissance kind of pushing back against all the craziness.
Hmm.
Well,
I'm
yeah.
with you, Suzanne. Glass half full. I'm with you.
It's the sun's gonna come up.
Well, that's how I feel too. I'm definitely more the glass is half empty, or like the glass is half empty and the part that's full is full of poison. So,
Yeah.
uh, but I do think at the end of the story, everybody's okay. Like that is my storyteller's faith, is that we can't see the shape and we can't see the design, but by the end of the story, I think the world redeems itself, and I think everybody's okay. I don't expect to be here for that, but that's what I think.
Maybe the cyborg you.
Yeah, cyborg me, sure.
So fun.
Yeah, I had my head in a jar.
what kind of programming are we going to have for this cyborg? Is he just always going to be romantic?
No, he's going to run my operating system.
Right.
It'll be me. It'll just have a bunch of machines keeping me alive.
We can get back into the deep questions in a second, but I have to get this fun one in. Nic, last time you were here, you mentioned you still carried another story for Russ Cole and Marty Hart. Without giving anything away, have you made any progress on that, or is it still waiting on the right season of life?
Yeah, I mean, it's just there. And Matthew and Woody have both said they would come back. They'd want to see a script, but I could do that. It's more about, if conditions at HBO arose where we were able to do another one, I would do it. But until that time comes to pass, and maybe it never will, that story or what it is the beginning of a story. It's I'm just holding on to it, and if things change over there and the opportunity arises, I'm pretty sure I would take it. I think the guys would too. But yeah, it's a fun story and would actually bring the other two seasons into alignment with it. Like you would see a couple characters you've seen before, not just Russ and Marty.
When we stop recording, just quickly tell us the story and we'll just wait. Nic, I don't know if I can ask this.
Epstein. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah. I don't know if I can ask this, if you can answer this without getting in trouble or anything like that, but with HBO, you obviously stepped away from True Detective, and now that you're kind of, back in the fold, how do I say this without pissing people off? Could they just call you and be like, hey, next season's you, or do they have to, is there a
They could.
period?
I'm not back in the fold though.
Not in with, I just mean working again. You took the break.
Yeah, but I think there would probably have to be some new management. But anything's possible. And I just try to stay open. And then I guess if everything bottoms out and I don't have any work and I got to feed my family, there is the break glass in case of emergency and just write a book of the sequel to Rust and Marty. Because I have the literary rights to all the characters.
Well, I think too, and again, don't if this is if we're walking on eggshells here, don't do it. But they did just sell, right? Didn't HBO just get bought by Netflix?
Not quite. There's a lot to be done before that deal happens, and Paramount is making a strong showing to try to acquire it too. But either one of those is fine with me. I'm working on a series for Netflix right now. I'm writing a series for Paramount and a movie for Paramount. So I'm in good with both of those places.
Anyway.
So if either of them buys Warner Brothers, I'll have that conversation.
Awesome. That's what I was trying to get to, but I didn't know. I didn't know if you had a dog in the race.
No, I think it would be cool for either place to buy them. And I know a lot of people are worried about what that means, but I think this kind of stuff is going to happen anyway. And so we might as well get to it and figure out how to live with it. The consolidation of these media conglomerates.
When all the work quiets down, what do you hope remains most true about who you are together?
I mean, I feel like we might have covered this already, but what remains true about us together is just our love for each other. I mean, we've been pretty busy with Rosie lately, and we've been missing each other because she's been wanting to sleep in the bed with me. So we haven't slept in the same bed in a while. And it's been really hard because we really miss each other. Our evenings are like just hang out, laugh, be together. And, when it all quiets down, we still have a lot of romance. Like, we're always grabbing ass in the kitchen. I mean, it's fun. Like, we have a lot of fun, even when we're exhausted and there's a lot going on. But I think when all is quiet, any time when we just get to be together uninterrupted is is so special to us. And like when we get to date, because we met later in life and we moved pretty fast. So when we get to just go to dinner or go out and make out at a bar, we got to do that a little while ago. It was really fun. We went to a karaoke bar, and I wanted to sing, and I put my name in, and it never came up. It was like 2 hours later, and we were just making out, having a great time, and we went home.
But then she sang to me in our bathroom.
I did.
Like,
I did.
so I got a one-on-one karaoke show, and that was nice.
It was a good time.
But I guess, my answer to that question would be, I hope our joy remains,
Yes.
because since we first met, we've had access through each other to this just enormous source of joy. Sometimes I have to remind myself, because I'll get lost in time, and I already have some wires crossed anyway. And I have to remind myself of how I felt before I met Suzanne. And then I remind myself of what happened when I met Suzanne. And it wasn't just, oh, I'm not lonely anymore. Well, why weren't you lonely anymore? Because I met a person who was as big as me and who saw all of me. And like it was like God in the way too, that in this thing, there was nowhere to hide. There was nowhere for me to hide. And the parts of myself that I'm not totally proud of, or I think are unsavory, like she saw those too. And she saw it all, and
Vice versa.
and she understood it all. And she could match it all. And so when I talk about that kind of loneliness that got alleviated, a big part of it was that I finally had a playmate. I finally had somebody I could just play with. And I would hope when everything else goes away, we're still playing.
Yes, that's great.
Because we like to play a lot.
I think, look, I don't want to hurt anybody's feelings, but I think we have more fun brushing our teeth together than most people have on their birthday. Like, we have so much fun.
No, I mean, it's great. She'll we're brushing our teeth and she'll just start grinding on me or something. And I've had to tell friends because she's so affectionate. And I had this one friend who was like, is she just doing that for my benefit? Does she think I think she doesn't love you or something? And I had to say she actually tones it down a lot when there's people around.
Who said that?
And I was like, she actually
rude.
She actually tones it down a lot. I was like, you have no idea what I live with. And it's fun. It's
just fun.
It's fun not being able to walk through the kitchen without being groped. And it's nice. And she's the only woman who ever made me laugh, really, really laugh. The way a funny guy will make you laugh.
I take great pride in that. And I know.
I told her that on our first date. On our first date, she'd been making me laugh. And I just said, you have the personality of a much less attractive woman. Because that was so unusual in my experience.
You're going to offend a lot of people.
No.
Get in line.
As you know, at the end of every episode, we normally ask our guests to brag about their family. But you two have obviously both already done that, bragging about each other and your beautiful children. I'm going to change it up and hit you with a harder question because you're both nothing left unsaid veterans. When you think about yourself as a little kid, how close were you to becoming the person you dreamed of? Not the crazy material things, the real essence of who you wanted to be.
I can take that.
Yeah.
Because there have been times in my life where something that energized me and flipped my perspective was thinking about if 5-year-old Nic knew what 45-year-old Nic's life was, I think he'd be really, really happy. He'd be really pleased. He'd be most pleased to know I don't have to show up to a 9-to-5 office job somewhere. He would have been like, you don't have to do that. And I could say, no, kid, never did. And he'd be thrilled about that. He would be like, wait, and you make your living writing? Like you? And I go, yeah, that's right. And you don't really have a boss? No, not really. and you can do what you want most days. Yep. I think that kid would have been thrilled, and he would have been, and you got out of South Louisiana. Oh yeah. We went lots of places, kid. And this beautiful woman is like completely devoted to you. Yep. Yep. Um, Now that kid might ask questions about how happy I am, and that's where I would let him down probably. Is he wouldn't even understand it. Like, what, you got all this stuff? You must be on cloud nine all the time. Like, well, but I think I would be really close to what that kid had wanted to be. And I think he would be most proud that I can say this honestly, that I never compromised. I I never compromised, and I never sold my life out to do something I didn't want to do. Um, I made sure my life was spent doing what I want to do.
I think 5-year-old Suzanne um, would have been probably disappointed that I wasn't a famous person, but would have been pleased with how I had redistributed all of that energy I had into something useful, and that I was singing, and that I was an artist, or I became an artist. I think she would have been happy to know that I'm happy, and that I chilled out a little, because I was not a chill kid, not even slightly chilled.
You're not a chill adult either.
Yeah, but you have no idea what it was like when I was little.
I think I have some idea because of Rosie.
Right. Yeah, no, I think I was a lot like Rosie. And I think, my little kid neuroses, I think little Suzanne would be like, "Oh, that's nice that you're still neurotic, but it's in a healthier way." Uh, and I think little Suzanne would be so happy to know that adult Suzanne was a mother. That our little Rosie is so much like I was when I was a kid. Yeah, I don't think she'd be bummed.
She'd be happy you found love.
Oh my gosh, yeah. Well, little Suzanne didn't really understand love. I just wanted to be on the TV. That's what I wanted.
Wow.
Yeah, and I did that, and it's like, all right, well, what else is new? What's next, kind of. And little kid dreams aren't always the most fully formed.
Yeah. It's funny. I was thinking like, I was like little kid me when you guys were talking. I would have been like, all right, after you play 20 years in the NFL and break every record but then at the end of it was like have a family and have kids, like similar to what my parents did and all that. And that's.
Well, I think I just wanted to get out. I wanted to get out of the town, and like just there was just bigger things, bigger ambition, bigger. And I did all that. I did. I didn't reach the greatest heights, but I the things I accomplished were great. I'm happy with them. And I think, but that impetus when you're young is like, let's go, get out of here,
Yeah, that was my main dream as a kid was, I like, as far as dreams go, I kind of outkicked my coverage, but when I was a kid, I just wanted, like, tell me I get out of here.
Tell me I get out.
Tell me I get out of here. Tell me I'm not in Lake Charles, Louisiana the rest of my life. Tell me.
Now on to our final word segment, where we ask our guests a few rapid fire questions.
All right. So normally the question is, what was the happiest moment of your life? We'll say, what was the happiest moment of your guys' relationship?
Oh, it's so hard.
Man, no.
Some things you can't talk about publicly.
Yeah, I think there's some things we can't talk about publicly. This is a family podcast, right?
Yeah.
More or less.
No, we can't talk about that. So.
I think we're in the same ballpark of what was the happiest moment, but it's pretty adult.
Next question. All right. So what was the biggest adversity your relationship ever had to overcome?
Well,
I'm an insane person.
I wouldn't put it that way, but I would say that you know,
Well, I think we both had to make a lot of adjustments
yes,
about how we were living our lives.
how to show up in this marriage.
Yeah, in order to honor what we have.
Hmm.
Like we didn't have to not be ourselves, but it almost required us.
Boundaries.
Yeah, it required boundaries, but it also required us each to become a better version of ourselves,
Hmm.
which we have. But getting there, there was a lot of discord, and we had to work through it.
Well,
And I mean, I'm not really an insane person, but I had a lot of baggage around relationships that made relationship of this kind difficult for me.
yeah, I mean, we had different versions of that, but you know, the greatest thing about intimacy is that it gives you this opportunity to grow and to better yourself, and some of that's really hard, especially if you have an ego, which we all do. But we've had a lot of obstacles, and you know really got to have the peace that we have now, not that long ago. I mean, it comes in
Yeah, no, like
spurts.
we always had the
We
best.
always had love.
We
We always
always had the best of times.
Yes.
But sometimes the best of times were followed by the worst of times.
But we attacked our structural issues, and like the foundation that we have now is not the foundation that we started with,
Right. Yeah.
and we really earned that.
But and really, like, all we earned was that thing that was between us to begin with.
Right.
It was more like, how do you have that all the time?
Preservation.
Mhm.
All right. So the next one is normally, what are you most excited about in the future? Let's say in your relationship, what are you most excited about in the future?
Moving, the baby.
Yeah, I'm excited about a new house.
Next time we can go away together.
Yeah.
I'm excited for that.
Definitely. I'm playing a festival in Florida. I'm playing the Mile Zero Festival in the Keys in January, at the end of January. Downside, can't drink margaritas with you, but I'll be happy for you when you do. But yeah,
We'll get like 3 days to ourselves.
that'll be fun.
Yeah.
That'll be fun. But yeah, I think a new home together is like, I moved into Nick's house when we met, and it's great. But it's always sort of still felt like it's your space in a lot of ways. So I'm excited to have our space moving forward, and places for our kids to run, and it's safe. It's not necessarily safe right outside our door in Austin.
Yeah, we're gonna adopt a more country style of living, and I'm excited about that too.
Is there room on your compound?
Yeah. There any spare houses on your street?
Or huts?
For a strong cult leader, we can make some things happen. If you like 6 months of winter, we got a
Started
spot.
here, folks.
Yeah. Okay, so this is kind of an interesting one, because normally it's, what advice would you give your younger self? What advice would you give yourself at the beginning of your relationship?
Oh, wow. Man.
Hang in there.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like,
I promise it gets better.
this is going to take a lot of growth on your part, and you're also going to have to set some very firm boundaries. But if you stick with it, this will be your greatest adventure and your proudest accomplishment.
Ooh, that was beautiful. I don't know if I could say it any better than that.
That's what I would tell me.
The next one, I don't know how we could do this, would be book recommendations. How about how do you do that in a relationship sense? What's a book you guys recommend to read together?
Housekeeping by Marilyn Robinson.
Beautiful. It's a tearjerker, though.
Gorgeous, sad book.
One of the most beautifully written books I've ever read. Just the lush, poetic descriptions of a place. Like I don't know.
It's a beautiful story about two little girls growing up with an unstable aunt, and it's just one of the finest written American novels in the history of our country. And it was either 1980 or 1981 it came out, and the author Marilyn Robinson didn't write another novel till it was like 26 years later or something. And her next novel was Gilead, but it housekeeping conveys somehow the sense of the tragedy and the beauty and the fragility of family and a human life. And it's just a gorgeous book.
I couldn't put it down. Yeah.
All right. So the last thing in this section was normally the name of this podcast is Nothing Left Unsaid. Do you guys have anything that you want to say?
I just want to say thank you. Thank you so
Yeah.
much for having us,
Yeah.
giving us the opportunity to hang out in the middle of a Monday.
Yeah.
Yeah, this was great. And Tim, you're such an inspiring person from top to bottom. It's just always a pleasure to cross your path in any way. Thank you guys for having us on. Yeah, that's what I would like to say. Is thank you. And, everybody else out there, hang in there.
Hang in there.
Hang in
guys.
there.
Yeah.
The story's going somewhere good.
Again, I don't know how to do this one, but normally I ask for a guest recommendation. But Suzanne, you recommended Nick.
I
Nick,
did.
you recommended Matthew McConaughey. We're trying on that. We're fighting with him on that. Not fighting with him, but we're talking to his people on that. He's a busy guy.
Yeah.
I don't know. Do you guys have any other recommendations?
Yeah, I might tell you the writer Walter Kern, who has become something of a public intellectual in recent years, but incredibly smart, sensitive man, a great writer, and one of our kind of finest cultural dissectors at the moment. I think you guys would have a blast with
Yeah,
Walter
he's
Kern.
wonderful.
Yeah, Kirn.
Yep. I would throw in Gary Clark Jr. and his manager, Scooter Weintraub, both wonderful people. Separate podcast, probably.
Awesome.
I'm grateful for your time and the way you both spoke today. Not loudly, not defensively, and not in pursuit of anything other than truth and fun. This was a conversation about restraint, faith, and love practiced quietly, which is often where the most important work is done. Thank you for trusting us with it. Nic and Suzanne, thank you for joining us today on Nothing Left Unsaid. I hope God continues to bless you and your family while friends like us cheer you on from the sidelines.
Thank you so
Thank you.
much.
Thank you,
Wow,
Tim.
thank you.
It's a pure pleasure to be here. It really is. Thank you.